When your dog pants, even when it's not hot, do you actually know what that means? You might think they're just cooling down, or maybe a little tired after moving around. But behind that simple reaction, there's something deeper that most dog owners completely miss. It's one of the most instinctive and vulnerable signals your dog can show. And if you misunderstand it, which most owners do, you might completely miss the moment your dog is asking for help. Let's start with what this behavior really means. And by the way, if your dog ever starts panting suddenly in a calm environment, don't ignore it. Well, come back to that later, because it means more than most people realize. 1. It's not about heat. It's about overload. Have you ever noticed your dog panting, even when the room is cool? No exercise, no sun, no obvious reason. Most people think it's just normal. Dogs pant. That's what they do. But here's what's actually happening. Panting isn't just a cooling system. It's also a pressure release. When your dog feels overwhelmed, too many sounds, too much movement, too much unpredictability, their body doesn't just think, stress it, reacts to it. Their breathing speeds up. Their mouth opens. Their tongue drops. Not because they're hot, but because their nervous system is overloaded. Emotionally, this is your dog trying to cope, trying to regulate something they don't fully understand. Your dog isn't just acting weird. They're experiencing a moment where the world feels too much. And panting is their way of staying in control. In a pack, a dog that loses control becomes vulnerable. So instead, they self-regulate. Quietly. Instinctively. And what this reveals about how your dog sees you. They're hoping you notice without them having to escalate. And this is where most owners get it wrong. 2. The science of stress breathing. So, what does science actually say about this? A 2018 study in canine behavioral physiology found that dogs under stress show increased respiration rates even without physical exertion. In simple terms, stress changes how your dog breathes. Here's what's actually happening. When your dog feels anxious, their body activates a stress response. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, breathing becomes faster and shallower. And that's when panting begins. Not as a choice, but as a reflex. Emotionally, this is your dog saying, I don't feel safe, but I am trying to handle it. Think about that for a second. They're not barking. They're not running away. They're trying to stay calm. What makes this even more powerful is a 2021 study in canine cognition showed that dogs often suppress more obvious stress signals when they're around their owners. Why? Because they trust you. So, instead of reacting loudly, they internalize it, and panting becomes one of the few visible signs left. This is where it gets deeper. Because now, it's not just about stress, it's about silent communication. 3. Your dog is using scent and proximity to feel safe. Have you ever seen your dog pant, then slowly move closer to you? That's not random. Here's what's actually happening. Dogs experience safety through scent and proximity. Your smell, your presence, your stillness, all of it tells their brain, this is my safe place. So when stress rises, they don't just react internally. They move toward you, panting and seeking closeness at the same time. Emotionally, this is incredibly powerful. Because your dog isn't just stressed. They're choosing you as the solution. Think about that for a second. Out of everything in their environment, they come to you. Not for commands, not for treats, but for safety. In pack behavior, this mirrors how dogs rely on a trusted leader. Not the strongest, not the loudest, but the one who feels stable. And what this reveals about how your dog sees you. You are their emotional anchor. Not perfect, but important. And hey, if this makes sense to you, hit like and subscribe. It helps us reach more dog owners who actually want to understand what their dog is really saying. 4. This comes from ancient survival instincts. Here's what most people don't realize. This behavior didn't start in your living room. It started long before domestication. Here's what's actually happening. In the wild, showing panic is dangerous. A dog that panics becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability puts the entire pack at risk. So instead, dogs evolved subtle coping mechanisms. Panting became one of them. It releases tension, stabilizes breathing, prevents escalation. All without drawing attention. Emotionally, it's a survival tool. Think about that for a second. Your dog isn't overreacting. They're doing exactly what evolution designed them to do. Even puppies show early versions of this. When they feel unsure, they don't always cry or run. Sometimes they just breathe faster, stay close, wait it out. And here's where it gets even deeper. When your dog pants near you, instead of fleeing, it means they've chosen connection over escape. That's not random. That's trust shaped by instinct. 5. They don't do this with everyone. Now, ask yourself this. Does your dog pant like this around strangers or only around you? Because here's what most people don't realize. Dogs don't show vulnerability to just anyone. Here's what's actually happening. Panting from stress is a controlled release, but it still exposes weakness. And dogs are selective about where they show weakness. Emotionally, this makes the behavior incredibly personal. Think about that for a second. Your dog is choosing to be vulnerable in front of you. Not hiding. Not suppressing it completely. But letting you see just enough. Impact dynamics. This is reserved for trusted members. Those who won't exploit the moment. Those who provide stability instead of threat. And what this reveals about how your dog sees you. You're not just part of their environment. You're part of their emotional safety system. And that's why this moment matters more than it looks. 6. This is your dog, asking for regulation, not solutions. Here's where most owners get it wrong. They see panting and immediately try to fix it. Calm down. Stop that. What's wrong? But your dog isn't asking for solutions. Here's what's actually happening. They're asking for regulation. Your tone, your body language, your energy. All of it influences how quickly they come back to baseline. Emotionally, this is co-regulation. Your calm becomes their calm. Think about that for a second. Your dog doesn't need you to solve the moment. They need you to stabilize it. This is the ultimate revelation. Panting in a calm environment isn't random. It's communication. It's your dog saying, I'm trying, but I need you to help me feel safe again. And when you respond with calm presence, instead of confusion or correction, you don't just stop the panting. You build trust. Deep, lasting trust. 7. If it suddenly starts or stops, don't ignore it. Remember earlier, when I mentioned sudden panting in calm situations, this is what that really means. Here's what's actually happening. A sudden increase in stress panting can signal a new anxiety, trigger a changing environment, or even internal discomfort. And if it suddenly stops, that can be just as important. Because it might mean your dog has shut down emotionally. Think about that for a second. No signals isn't always a good sign. In many cases, it means your dog no longer feels safe expressing anything at all. And that's when problems go deeper. So don't ignore the change. Because behavior isn't random. It's information. And your dog is always communicating, even when it's quiet. So when your dog pants, even when it's not hot, do you see it differently now? That's not just a cooling system. That's not just random behavior. That's emotional regulation. That's silent communication. That's trust under pressure. And that behavior, it was never small to your dog. And it shouldn't be small to you either.